Let's get to Shana Sissel, who is the CEO and founder of Banríon Capital Management. Shana, thank you very much for joining us. Apple, after hours, interesting moves to the downside. The market looking at the lack of clarity here. What did you make of what we heard from Apple?
Well, I was encouraged by the fact that they are having better than expected iPhone sales. iPhones are 49% of all the sales that they do, so it's a huge part of the revenue that they generate. I was more concerned with the fact that it's becoming more and more about just the iPhone for them. If you looked at the entirety of their revenue and where it was being driven from, they missed the estimates in all the other categories. So for me, that's concerning. But the one thing that the market was really paying attention to and really wanted to see was increased sales. This was a record iPhone sales report. They want to see this this upgrade cycle actually take hold, and they want to see if people are interested in driving into the Apple Intelligence technology that is going to be rolled out, and it looks like all of those things are happening.
Shana, no doubt a lot of hype around Apple Intelligence, but just what are people getting? If they buy the new iPhone today, are they getting the full capabilities, or is that part of the issue that a lot of people are waiting it out? They're waiting to see what the benefits are when you truly have a full-blown launch of this new technology?
Well, they haven't rolled out the full capabilities of Apple Intelligence yet. They've done some very basic rollout with iOS 18.1, and they've seen people adopt the new operating system much quicker than in the past. I think he said on the call 2 times faster than they've typically seen the upgrade of the operating cycle, operating service. But I will say this. If the concern is, and the market wants to see, if people are waiting on the sidelines to buy the new iPhone to see what the technology is coming out, we're already seeing better iPhone sales on the 16 and even on the 15 as a result of just the idea of Apple Intelligence. So if we're already seeing a watered down version of it drive sales, when the newer version comes out, I think that's encouraging. I think that suggests that momentum will pick up.
Shana, good point. And of course, as people talk to friends and tell them what the capabilities are, perhaps there's more of a hype cycle to come. Well, let's just move on to China, because we are seeing more competition on the ground. And it felt as though Huawei was very much on the back foot after some of the big issues around access to chip technology on the back of first the Trump administration, that continuing through with the Biden administration. But now when it comes to China, Huawei seems to be back in some form. What impact is that having on the ground in China?
Well, it certainly impacts Apple quite a bit. If you looked, again, through their earnings and you looked at some of the nuance, the expected revenue out of China was about $15.8 billion, and they only generated $15 billion, which, you know, that's still a big number, but it's $800 million off what the expectations were, because Huawei is picking up steam. And that is concerning, because if you think about it, Apple's kind of saturated the market here in the United States. It has a pretty good market share in Europe. And as you think about where the growth opportunities lie for Apple, it really is in Asia, and specifically China. And if they can't ramp up there, and if they're facing too much competition, the competition's, you know, more than exceeding what the expectations are, that's troubling for future growth opportunity for Apple.
The timing of the earnings coming on the back of a real product refresh to beyond the iPhone. And we saw what the iMac, the Mac Mini, the MacBook Pro all refreshed over the course of the week. But obviously too early to tell what the sales look like. What do you make of what could come in following quarters thanks to that refresh? Does it take some of the heat off iPhones to be the heavy lifter here?
I'm not sure it does. I think what Apple's really missing is the innovation it once had. A refresh is just that, a refresh. Is it enough to encourage folks to go out and buy brand new product from Apple because of the refresh? And we've seen, even with the iPhone, that isn't always the case unless there's something drastically different. Apple hasn't really brought a new product to market in a while. The last really big differentiated product Apple brought to the market was the Apple Watch. And Apple has basically grown and built its reputation on being innovative and bringing products to the market that people didn't even know they needed. And so, yeah, refreshes are great, but it's just that it's not new innovation. And I'd like to see Apple have some new innovation. I think the company needs that in order to stay ahead and to continue to grow the business. But as it stands right now, I don't see any of the refreshes of the products really driving any additional growth or sales outside of just the people who would normally refresh because things get old.
Can I ask you how Apple now sits amongst its peers? Because there's been a big week, as we've seen a lot of the big rivals produce numbers, but the big message was really, look, AI spend is going to get even deeper from here for the hyperscalers, the likes of Microsoft, Meta and Alphabet. Does it now look as though Apple might be a safer play without some of the big capital expenditure that is now required to build out AI? How do you think about Apple in that context?
Well, I do think that is an advantage for Apple. I think that as it stands, the key to success in AI right now is being able to monetize it. And, we saw in the Alphabet earnings that they are finding ways to monetize the AI tools that they're using. That is a good thing. But Apple is able to monetize it through this upgrade cycle with the iPhone. And I think that that's a positive. I think overall, to take a step back from Apple, what this really I find encouraging about this is what it means for NVIDIA. NVIDIA has kind of driven the U.S. stock market here. It's really been the leader. As NVIDIA goes, so goes the market. And what we've seen in all of the recent reports, whether it be Meta or Microsoft or Alphabet or Apple, is that AI is here to stay, and it is the wave of the future. And these companies are committing a lot of capital to continuing to build out their AI tools. And it's encouraging to see that it's being monetized, because there's got to be a point where, do you keep throwing money at something that you can't make money with? So seeing these signs means that it is being monetized, which is bullish for future and growing adoption and more capital spend in AI, which is positive for an NVIDIA.
What did you make of the likes of Amazon as well after hours? Because it was the only one really to pop in extended trade in the market. I think looking at the numbers, AWS a little bit disappointing, but they were pretty impressed with the retail numbers, which has been quite a stretch for this business that they've been building out over the years. AWS has really been doing the lion's share of some of that heavy lifting for the company. But was there much in the Amazon numbers for you?
Well, but like you said, seeing the retail side kind of rebound a bit and have driven more of the earnings than it normally does is positive. It's the exact opposite of my concern with Apple, right? So Apple, my concern is it's becoming too dependent on one product, and that's always a recipe for disaster. That's risky. And Amazon, with AWS was kind of seeing the same thing, but with a broadening of the revenue coming from other areas, that is largely bullish for the stock, because, you're not as dependent on a single channel. And so that's why I think that stock popped after hours.
Shana, thank you so much for joining us today. I was just looking at the disclosures that you do own the stock when it comes to Apple as well. We do appreciate you digging into the detail for us. Shana Sissel with us, the CEO and founder, Banríon Capital Management.